third, fourth, fifth, upper elementary. Okay, high school, middle school. There's always,
There was
one.
3.
It's like less than 2 every single time.
I think I saw 3 though.
3?
You're striking. He said yes.
You didn't do it confident.
Oh, that was a
Yeah, no, like this. Okay, so let me tell you about middle school teachers. Even if we're like epically failing at everything, we just do it with just pure confidence, right? So you just gotta be like, yep, middle school, because they look at middle school teachers like they're weird, and guess what? So that's how we survive. All right, so a little bit about myself. I am currently a 7th grade teacher in Bennington Public Schools, which is, yes, I had Miss Bombeck's son, and hopefully daughter here soon. But I have taught every grade 5 through 8, and just about every topic or content you can think of, from math, science, social studies, zoology, zoo architecture, service learning, gifted education, like you name it. The one thing you won't hear me say is English or reading. Nobody wants that. No, I know my strengths, and that is not one of them. So when the kids come to me and they're like, hey, can you help me with my homework? Yeah, sure, go ahead. And they're like, nouns, I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna need you to go across the hall. That's a no-go for me every time. So, but I absolutely love teaching. This is my 17th year. I say that because I was like a mid-year hire. And I spent 15 years in Omaha Public Schools as well, both at middle schools, King Science and Morton Magnet. So, if you know OPS at all, that's where I work. Okay, so my goal for you is to walk away with some very easy to implement things that take like 5 to 10 minutes. Because when you get into teaching, you know, you especially as a new teacher, you feel like I gotta stick to the curriculum, I gotta do what my counterparts are doing and all of those things. But these are things you can walk away with as you go into your practicum, student teaching, that are just very easy to implement. I do this stuff every day. Inquiry-based instruction is very much a large part of my classroom. We don't go a single day, like never, where I just stand and talk the whole time. So I won't be doing that with you either. All right, so I want you to think for a moment. Who was your rebel teacher? Okay, now a rebel teacher, to me, is somebody who challenges the status quo, looks at it and they're like, you know what, we can make this better. A rebel teacher, they experiment with different lessons and activities. Sometimes they fail, sometimes they're epically awesome. They advocate for students, and they're a disruptor. If you hear me talk at all this year, I use that word a lot. Do you guys know what a disruptor in education is? Okay, so a disruptor looks at the way things have always been done, and they look at how to make it better. That is very much a big part of what I do, because to me, that's the most dangerous statement ever. Well, it's the way we've always done it, right? We can always make things better. Kids are always changing. Learning is changing. There's so many things at their fingertips now, so we use that instead as a catalyst for positive change. So I want you to think about who your rebel teacher was, or your favorite teacher, because most likely they were a rebel. They were different. And just think about them for a moment. Okay, let's hear. Who wants to share with me? You gotta talk to me. I'm way more fun when you talk to me, I promise. Tell me about your favorite teacher, your rebel teacher.
She was my 11th grade history teacher. You might know her, Elise Pape.
I don't.
I think she was Nebraska's Teacher of the Year like 4 years ago, maybe.
Well, heck yeah, I'm gonna meet her now.
She works 9th grade Gretna now, but
Okay.
she like added in so many things to our curriculum that didn't make it feel like more work, but made it more interesting to learn about.
Love that.
So like she had music quizzes at the end of every week for like decades we were learning about,
That's cool.
which wasn't part of curriculum, but it was like.
Yeah. But you still did it, right?
Yeah.
Love that. What else? Yeah.
My 8th grade history teacher, she we were learning all the, I forgot what it was now, but it was could have been really boring, but she found a way to make it not boring. And she had us do pamphlets and hands-on activities, and just really got us out of our seats.
You see how she didn't remember the content? She remembered the experience, right? Same. That's what it comes down to. Your kids that you teach are not going to remember you as someone who's like, oh, loves that worksheet, right? Or, man, that enthusiasm for state testing. That's why I love them. You're never gonna hear anyone say that. It's always gonna come back to the teachers who take the curriculum and make it an experience. We don't wanna raise kids that are just there to memorize, to test, to do an assignment. We wanna raise critical thinkers, ones that can problem solve, ones that we can like push out into the world and they are productive citizens, right? And you're gonna always remember those experiences over everything else. So, I don't want you to remember me as someone who just stood up here and talked to you, so we're gonna have a little bit of an experience today. I'm gonna give you a note card. Here's your challenge, okay? Because teachers who are rebels, they flip the script. So instead of me telling you how to be a rebel teacher, we're going to experience it, okay? Your challenge, and if you know how to do this, there's always somebody who says they know, and then they just can't remember when they have to do it, okay? So, you have to walk through a note card, okay? You can do what you need to. I will bring you some scissors. But in the end, you can't like tear it into pieces and then like hold it up and then walk through it. You can't fold things, you can't glue things. All you get is a note card and you get scissors. Sorry, I'm like counting, but just, there you go. So you guys have this too. Okay. Like you have to. It's a thing. You get one note card. I will bring you scissors, okay? And the goal is for you to fit, and if you don't want to fit yourself, fit your entire body, yes, your whole body, through a note card. You can't like put a hole in it and then go like this. Your whole body has to walk through the note card, okay? Does that make sense? No glue, you can't fold it over. So it means it can't be like a line that you step over because that's going over the note card. You gotta go through. You gotta go through the note card. Got it? Go. That's all you get. Walk through the note card. Gotta walk right through it. Do I have enough scissors? You need your scissors. That was a perfect amount. Nailed it. Alright, we got some who started. We've got the ones who are a little hesitant, like, what is she doing? So as a teacher, I get to see who are my observers, right? Who are the ones that are just going to go for it? So you can learn a lot. You can just touch, I promise. If you mess up, I'll give you another note card. I got mine. So you can fold the note card, but you can't fold it at the end to make it something you can walk through. Okay. So you can do what you need to with the note card, but I've got to be able to walk through it completely without you having folded it together, glued it together, any of that. Yeah, you do you. Do you though? You look hesitant. I can walk through it. Maybe we can walk through it. That's what it is. Yes? Yes. Maybe? He teaches the high school for the same thing, and he knows it as well. Is that walking through or between?
So you have to actually.
Yeah.
I don't know.
No, I just support the ELA department. Nope. I know some of you, how many of you think this is impossible? It's not, I promise. I like the creativity though here. There's some people who are close. by some of the methods. This might be the quietest presentation. I like your thinking. How you gonna walk through that one? You can't, you don't fold it together. Oh, okay. I wasn't prepared for that one. I've never seen anyone do that before. I'm not mad about it. Okay. She proved me wrong. She walked through it and she didn't do, you're like me. You find the little loophole and you're like, it wasn't on the board. She didn't fold, she didn't glue. Alright. I'll give you like a minute. You, ma'am, are a rebel teacher, I can tell. Look at that. How, are you holding it together with your hands? Cheater. Alright, so here's the deal, you guys. It is possible. I promise you. Part of the reason that I do this, and yes, you could do this with any content you're teaching. It could tie literally to any subject. And you're probably thinking, how? It's a note card. You're making me walk through it. No, really. Okay? But this is how you start a class to get kids hooked. Because I'm talking, you could be done with it, and look, we're still messing with it, aren't we? Because you want to know the answer, don't you? Yeah. So, I usually don't tell anybody the answer.
Why?
You might think so, but guess what? I just told you I wasn't going to give you the answer, and guess who's still messing with your note? Yep. It's the same thing with learning. Kids don't have to have the answers to be engaged in what you're teaching. I could literally never tell you. I do activities like this with my students all the time. I have this what's in the box activity. Here, it's right here. The beginning of the year, I gave them this box. I said, I need you to tell me what's inside of it. But you can't open it. And they were like, what? So they started asking themselves questions, just as you did with your note card. Okay? I heard some of you trying to figure out, when can I do this? And then we talked about how that's between, right? You started talking with your neighbors about how to make that happen. Then some of your strategies then indicate, helped other people decide what they were going to do. So when my students are given this box, they go, are you going to tell us what's inside? My answer is always no. Still, I did this the first week of school and I've never told them what's inside of here. They still talk about this box, all the time. It also doesn't help that I have it on my board like this, so they just have to keep thinking about it, okay? But they started asking questions like, well, I hear things that sound like metal. Miss, do you have a magnet? And then I do one of these. Well, actually, I do. And I hand them a magnet, and they're like, well, if we weighed it with an empty box, and I'm like, oh, did you need a scale? And I start handing them things, because then what happens, they start to ask their own questions they genuinely care about, and they will find the answers at a deeper level than what I would have ever given. I could tell them what's in the box. I could tell you how to use a note card, right? Look, he's still messing with the note card, right? Because he's determined. Now he's hooked. And that's the power of curiosity. And that's what a rebel teacher does. Okay? You start with curiosity. You get the kids hooked. That took 5 minutes. Now you don't even have to go that long. Okay? I could have just stood up here and told you exactly how to cut that note card and walk through it. You guys would have been like, oh, that's cool. And you would have never thought about it again. But it is killing me because you are still holding the scissors and the note card, and he's like, just show me how to do it. You can YouTube it. Or I'll show you the video. But I'm not going to tell you right now. You can continue to cut the card. It's fine.
I'm good for now.
Okay. All right. But rebel teachers, they flip the script, you guys. Okay? They don't look at something and say, this is impossible. It's like getting kids into your classroom. Maybe half the class has an IEP or 504, several behavior problems. You don't look at it and say, we're never going to learn anything. No. Rebel teachers just flip the script and they work with it. And they find ways to be creative like you did. I said no folding, no gluing. She's over here cutting little notches in her paper and then clipping it together like this. You made it work, right? That's what a rebel teacher does. They made it work. Okay? So, today, we're going to look at how to spark that curiosity and why it's important. We're We're gonna look at ways we can design lessons and activities so that students want to know more, right? You can tell them all day long the things they have to know, they will forget it. What was that history lesson about? Exactly. They won't remember that, but they're gonna remember you and what you did in the classroom. That's what they remember every time. Okay? Pretty sure Carter, your son, probably can't remember anything I actually taught him, but he can remember how I taught him. There's the difference, okay? So, one thing I want you to think about is how we get kids to think, which is what I was doing with you. Then we want to get them to wonder, okay? These are pictures from my classroom, okay? We are never just sitting and listening, sitting. The classroom is very untraditional. Some people would tell you it can be chaotic. To me, it's organized chaos. Kids are always engaged. But at the same time, if it means that I have to do a whole lot of front-end work, we were just joking, she thinks I never sleep, which is probably kind of accurate. Sometimes to be a rebel teacher, it means a lot of your own time. But if the payout is 100% engagement and kids are genuinely interested in learning, why would you go about it any other way? You know what I mean? Okay? So, we don't want to, just tell them. We want to create these experiences. So I'm going to tell you about this picture. That is me hanging from Post-it notes. Yes. Nothing more than that. I had to teach ratio tables. How many of you remember your teacher teaching you ratio tables? What? You don't remember that lesson? Ratio tables are amazing. Just kidding. They're not. They're super boring. And they're also boring to teach. So I decided to flip the script. I'm like, I can sit here and give them notes and tell them what a ratio table is. I don't want to. So instead, I handed every table, because my kids sit together, I handed every table a stack of Post-it notes. I said, I had this idea last night. And these are middle schoolers, right? They're very judgy people. And I said, I kind of want to know how many Post-it notes it takes to hold my weight, because I want to start lifting weights. I said that. And they looked at, I hate working out, by the way. And so I held this bar. It was like a big metal bar that I found. And I said, I want to hang from the doorway from Post-it notes and try to do a pull-up. And they were like, okay. I said, so I'm going to need you to figure out how many Post-it notes I need so I don't fall flat on my butt. Well, to a middle schooler, the thought of your math teacher falling is quite appealing, okay? But it was also exciting because they could either help me fall or help me be successful in it. So I handed them the Post-it notes and I said nothing more, and I said, okay, get to work. So what do you think they did? Did they just sit there, or did they start asking questions? They started asking questions. They were like, well, Ms. Wilson, we need to know how much a Post-it note will hold. So that's a great question. I said, I actually know the answer to that. So then I told them. And then I said, but that's all you get from me. So they started making their own version of a ratio table before I even taught them how to do it. They start, okay, if one Post-it note can hold this much, 2 Post-it notes can do this, and she has to have a Post-it note on each side of the doorway to make this link. And they started building the tables. So then they'd ask me questions like, the awkward, how much do you weigh? I told them, it is what it is. They were doing math. So I gave them a general number and I said, here's how much I weigh. And they're like, okay, you're gonna need this many Post-it notes. I said, in order for me to fully trust what you guys are saying to me, we gotta actually check this. So it looks like you're all doing a bunch of ratio tables. They didn't know that's what I was gonna teach them that day. And so I said, let's just double check your math. So I go over to the board and I'm like, all right, let's build this. This is actually called a ratio table. It looks like you all know how to do it. And they're like, yeah, sure do. Okay? And I'm like, but let's take some notes just to be sure. So they all get out their notebooks. I didn't have to tell anyone to get it out, nothing. I then teach them the notes to get through a ratio table. And they were like, we did it. I think we got the right number. I'm like, don't fail me. So I go to the doorway and we put it together. I knew how many I needed. And I put the box under my feet. I was like, okay, here we go. Right? And I just made it super dramatic. You can do this with even 8th graders are they love the drama. Okay? I literally hang from these Post-it notes. You can't really see it in the picture, but they're little blue Post-it notes. And then there's a paper sling in between them to hold them together. I stood on this box. These 2 see that excitement? So then, my neighbor next door, she comes out, she goes, what are you guys doing? I said, oh, sorry, we're doing math. And she goes, oh, of course you are. And she shuts the door. So then, my principal, okay, she's got her clipboard like this. There's this hallway right here. She's walking in the back like this. And she goes, what are you guys doing? And all the kids were like, we're doing math. And she goes, she didn't see me because I like blend in with them. I was. And I was like, oh boy, here we go. So she goes, what are you, what's going on? Because we're all straining, right? Because I did it. I hung from the post-it notes. And so she comes over and she goes, oh, Miss Wilson, right? Because then she knew, like, okay, here we go. So I was like, no, we're doing ratio tables. I can hang from post-it notes. It held my weight. And she goes, I want to try. So she's about as big as I am. And I was like, you want to try? She's like, yes. I don't have it up here, but I do have a picture of her hanging. Her feet are like way up here. She's like, like this. She was so excited, and the kids still talk about it. That's how you hook kids. I taught them ratio tables, and they didn't even know I taught it to them. See? How that works? Okay. So, I'm going to give you a little bit of time to explore. I'm trying to get you. I will go over if I'm not careful. So, I have put together a bunch of boxes. Now, my high school people, you're probably going to say, all right, Miss Wilson, there's no high school things here. You can do this stuff with high school too, I promise you. Promise you, promise you, promise you. I have a high schooler myself, okay? It works. But I've put together what I can. I've gone up through 8th grade. I'm working on the high school stuff. So if my high school people want to help me out, you can help me build stuff. Okay? But I've developed inquiry boxes, things where you can engage kids in a very 5 to 10 minute easy activity to get them thinking. So one of them is my mystery box. Okay? I've broken it down by grade level, K through 2, 3 through 5, 6 through 8. So if you're high school, do the 6 through 8. And I've broken it down by content. So if you're really into reading, then maybe grab the reading box. If you're really into science, then do that. Inside of there, and these are all things I've done in some capacity. So this is the science one for kindergarten through 2nd grade. And it gives you the teacher information and how you would engage the kids. All the supplies are inside, okay? It's just to get you thinking about how you could do this in your own classroom, in your practicum, just to get kids interested. Because remember, we want to get them thinking, we want to keep them wondering, asking their own questions. Because when students ask their own questions, like they did with my ratio tables, they're far more invested than if I say, all right, everybody, open up your notebooks, we're going to take notes today. They don't care, right? Especially as they get older. You can kind of grab the attention when they're younger, 7th grade, all the way through high school, you're going to lose them real quick. Okay, so sometimes you got to be weird and quirky and all the things. Okay, so I'm going to let you kind of dig through these a little bit just to see what it's all about, and then I'll show you some other stuff. Sound good? Okay, so right here, I'll let you grab what you want to grab. So I have science, social studies, math, and then reading. This is my K through 2, 3 through 5, 6 through 8. Got it? You grab what you want, sit with the people who you kind of align with, and I'll walk around and explain stuff a little bit better. Yep, that's K through 2 science. If you have the math ones, there's a lot of QR codes that come with videos. Social studies. Yeah, so there's that's K through 1 high school. So it's that's the one I did.
A whole game of Operation.
Okay, what do we have? Which, can't tell me.
So that is what you guys have.
6th grade.
No, I would actually prefer to see that. I don't usually make anyone. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Wait.
So, activity, character perspective.
It's a short passage
Okay.
book or story. So you're asking, how might the character feel? What might they think about what just happened? Figure out where take turns reading the language aloud and discuss the character's perspective.
I'll partner up with you guys.
Okay, so this one, I'm not like incorporating their thoughts, I tried. So on these ones, we just Alright, let me tell you. Okay, so these are like some of my favorite things that I love for English teachers. So these kids pick them out of a bin. Like pick one, and they're like, I got the ear. Cool. You get the brain, you get okay. So then as we're talking about so I have to I really like something to say. You have to give an idea of something. You have to have this aha on some, maybe you have, okay, here's a question I still have. So you use these to get kids to recognize what they're all talking about.
Yeah.
Did you? You know how she said, do you ever sleep? The answer's no. Alright, so, have you guys ever heard of that?
It's an emotion word that's a list of emotions to help describe characters. Okay, so that's where I got the describe. So thinking it, describe how So basically, that starts with video. So there's a guy that does it called. And so he's watching it. And then he's curious, he'll show them the law. And gas. We should ask. Maybe like butterflies or like you know when you get like
Or like your gut reaction. Yeah.
How much did you put out?
like you guys figure out next one.
Isn't it weird like when you watch it?
Yeah,
Wait,
like, oh my gosh. Yeah. But it starts happening. So that's what's he's this for the little guy. But basically
His foot, his hands. Oh, both his feet, actually.
Okay. So I have a passage where I show them a box. Probably like the time you tried to talk to my mom. Like, what emotion word is red feeling? Why do you think red feeling? There's some questions for that. Rewrite. Rewrite the scene where Greg is frustrated for how he adding things under. Start adding organically.
And then that would lead you into your.
That's cool. This is
Oh, okay.
yeah. Punch you. If I'm immediately.
Oh, 3 out of 10.
It's so goofy. Yeah, I I love doing when I sit and, yeah. This is, so 6 through 8 reading. So we read, students would read a little passage. And then, so everybody would have
You would draw the memories of some of it.
Okay. what she's doing. This would probably be like what you feel.
Yeah.
Maybe.
What you think, what you wonder.
Yeah. And then it's like a discussion and read a little passage about from the book and discuss like what to say in the aha moment, realize, jot it down and yeah. Yeah. What happened? Yeah.
And then you're like rewrite paragraph.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you have to like really solidify, like you have to know the word and anything goes with it. Ammo, you have to do that.
So, and I think that's so, yeah.
I bet it's like the ears are fun. Oh.
Alright, I gotta take a minute. Did you figure out what I did? But then look
I hope not. Middle school.
I was supposed to go last week, they didn't have the power thing out. And I think they were all from it.
Alright, I'll give you like another minute-ish. Don't mind me.
Fingers crossed we get with the boat.
You guys know it's all cleaned up. Love it. Yes. Hopefully it gets you thinking. I did? That's good. Can you tell that I also? Yeah? That hyperfixation. I love it. Alright, do you guys have time to go back in the box for me? Yes. Or you can keep playing with it. So what do you guys think of those inquiry boxes? Do you think that that's something you could easily build on your own? Yeah? And like I said, I'm working on the pre-K ones and the high school ones, so I apologize, but I appreciate the flexibility. Was there one that you were like, I like this, but I might change it for X, Y, Z? Yes.
The mystery box one, like if you like if you're like chemistry teacher, like elements and everything, you know that
Yes.
so have to find it out.
That's a great one. So I will give you my business card. I actually have one built for that, that I use in my own classroom. So you're talking like doing a bunch of white substances, right? And maybe the reactants that would go with it. That would be cool. I like that. But immediately they're gonna be like, okay, well I see this one's a silky texture, this one's more grainy. Okay, I've got vinegar here, let's see how it reacts. So they're gonna start to ask certain questions. And then that could lead you into how you define the properties, right? I love that. What about anyone else? Yeah.
I like our little box for 6
6 through 8 reading?
Yes, reading. But to make it more like high school, I'd say like maybe rewrite the whole paragraph at the end in like a different style.
Ooh.
Just make it like that bit more challenging where it's imperfect.
I might steal that. We were looking at blackout poetry for
Mhm.
the high school. I kinda like that. I only had enough for a few of the boxes for these. If you've never seen these are really great. They're bags of these like squish things, but they're all different. And And so when you want the kids to engage in a conversation, they all say the same thing, right? Especially the upper levels, they're like, yeah, what she said, okay? Whereas if you give them different things, different objects, I now have to respond to a question, or say a question that I still have about the reading, or the content, or the math, or whatever. This is a brain, so maybe it's, I have the brain, so I have to give an idea or solution that I've already thought of. This is an ear, so I have to say something that I heard somebody else say that I heard that I really liked. So then it gives each kid a different thing to discuss in their group. All right, so a couple things. When you build that Rebel toolbox, right? Rebels, they want to flip the script, they want to make it an experience, so it's not just that they're sitting and listening the whole time. Okay? There's no single way, as you can see I wrote, no single way to disrupt. So disruptive teaching is taking what's always been done, okay, and turning it over and making it better. So engaging learning happens when students think critically, they ask questions, all those things. You have to give them time to wonder. Because if you don't, you're telling them what to think and it's just going to go in one ear and out the other. I am doing an activity right now. Just telling her about. I'm hosting a moon jelly symposium on Friday. Yes. Weird, right? Do you guys know what moon jellies are? Right. Exactly. Okay. So they're a type of jellyfish. So I am very much about allowing kids to ask their own questions. I get them thinking about the content. Okay, now let's start to ask our own questions, and then we have to explore. That's the third one there. And I'll tell you about my moon jelly symposium in a second. So exploration's not about you having the answers. Especially when you're a new teacher, you're not always going to know the answers. I am notorious with my kids for doing this. They hate it. But I don't want to tell them everything because they won't remember. So if I do this, I don't know. I actually know. But they know that means, oh, I gotta go look it up. Because if they take the time to go look it up because they're curious about it, it will stick so much more than if I just tell them the answer. They're gonna forget. Otherwise, they remember to turn in their homework on time and put their name on the paper and all the other things, right? Okay? So we have to help them and give them an opportunity to explore. So let me tell you about my moon jelly symposium. So I have to teach about population and resources as a 7th grade science teacher. And the question that they are supposed to answer at the end of the unit is, what caused the population of moon jellies to increase? They knew the answer the second day into a 19-day unit. Yeah. I was not going to drag that out for 19 days for no reason. Okay? So instead, we continued to learn about the essential things so we could learn the right vocabulary, competition, energy source, all the things. But then I said, you know what? Instead of doing our typical CER where you write, they would answer that question. Have their claim, their evidence, reasoning. I said, you know what? I want you to pick your own question. So again, remember mine. The one I have to ask them is, what caused the population of moon jellies to increase? It's a pretty basic question. When I said to them, now you make a list of all the things you wonder. I have to approve your question. I'm getting questions now. What is the sea turtle population and how does the sea turtle population affect the moon jelly population? Or if moon jellies continue to increase at a rapid rate, how will that affect other parts of the food web? I mean, come on, those are so much better than the one I gave them, right? So now they are picking the questions they genuinely want to know. It's still tied back to my original question, but there's more depth. They care about it. I had a kid today say, this is great. He's looking at his computer and he said, what? He goes, look at this. And he's got all this data on his screen. Most of the time he sits there like this. Okay? And he's just staring at all these charts and graphs. And I was like, what is that? And he was like, it's the population of all the other parts of the food web. I found it. I was like, that's pretty cool. And he's like, I know, look. So he's like really excited. He goes, this is fun. I actually get to like do something I care about. I was like, well, it's still moon jellies. And he's like, yeah, but it's not that question. Right? I was like, ouch. He's like, that's what school gives me. Right? But they are so excited. So I thought, you know what? Instead of having them write a report like they do every other unit, we're going to host a moon jelly symposium. And they were like, what? I said, you're all going to present. So instead of writing the paper, I'm going to have you present to the class your findings. So they still have to do a claim, they still have to have their 3 pieces of evidence, they still have to justify. The questions are stronger, they're better, they care about them, they're engaged, they've been working so hard. And we had 2 snow days, so that's 2 less days they got for research. You think they cared? They've all been working on it. They've been begging their study hall teachers, can we just work on this instead of reading, please? And I'm like, on the email, like, please, right? And they're all doing it, and they're all working. Today, can we practice our presentations? And teachers are like, oh my God, it's gonna be chaotic if we just send them all out and they're all practicing presentations. But we did it. And we went out and watched, and they were all like staring at their computers with their partner, like this. It was great. So, on Friday, there will be 2 winners, one from my classes. Well, there will be a winner from every class, and a winner from the other 7th grade science teachers' classes. And I have an old student who is now an environmental ecologist, okay? And she's going to be our keynote speaker on Friday at our Moon Jelly Symposium. I made moon jellyfish trophies and all. Yep, I did. Amazon, $5. And moon jelly stickers. And they are gonna get up, they're gonna listen to the keynote speaker, then they get to get up and present their findings after her, and they get to be fancy like her, right? And they are so pumped. And guess what? It's 9th period, middle school, before spring break. Nobody's engaged, but they are like pumped, like so pumped for this. And they're doing more science than I would have made them do if I would have just followed the curriculum. But I'm still following it, just making it better. Okay? That's what rebel teachers do, and that's what you gotta do. You gotta keep them hooked, okay? So sometimes that means doing things that are different than everybody else. And sometimes it will drive other teachers crazy, because you're doing too much and you're being too extra. But if kids are always at the forefront of every decision you make, who's gonna get mad at you? Nobody. Nobody. Okay? So, keep in mind that as you move into your teaching fields, right? If you would have asked me if I was going to be a teacher, by the way, I hated school. But now I got to make it a place that I want to be too. So if you are not having fun, they are not either. So make it a place where you all want to be, because that's when real learning happens every single time. Okay? Even if it's unpopular to everybody else. All right. So, my last little piece, challenge for you. I want you to be a rebel, but the good one. Don't be a bad one. Be a good one. Okay? And really think about how you can be you in your building. Don't be like everybody else. So if you are weird and quirky, be that person. If you are more serious, that's fine too. Kids, no matter what grade you're teaching, they will know if you are not being your authentic self. So, be your authentic self. You don't have to be like me, okay? Or you or whoever. You have to stay true to who you are, because that's what makes a great teacher, right? Okay? And so if you're in a place where you feel like it's not a good fit, that doesn't mean you shouldn't be a teacher. That just means you gotta find your fit. Okay? Middle school is my fit, I know that. They're weird, quirky, and I love that. Right? So middle school. So take risks. If you fail, you fail. Tell them. Like, sorry guys, that sucked. My bad. They won't care. You're just modeling that, right? We make mistakes and we're constantly trying to do better. Okay. If you don't mind, I have one more thing to give you. But if you don't mind, before you leave, I would like feedback. Yes, I like feedback so I can be better each time. But I made you something. So I have lots of things in my brain, okay? And I thought, no one wants to just go to a presentation and not get anything out of it. Plus you guys are always being tasked with like creating things for your classrooms and all that. So, no matter what you teach, okay? And I have, or my PE guy, I have a help one. I'll email you if you give me your email. I do have one, I started. But I've got grades K through 5 resources. So on this side, this is on every single one. These are 10 very easy to implement ways to get kids to think and wonder. Like very easy strategies that take like 5 minutes. So notice and wonders, think, pair, shares, question storms, some that you may have never heard of before. Okay? So there they are. On the other side, these are all free for you. Okay? I made sure they were free. But these are all of my top favorite grades K through 5 resources that get kids hooked and engaged. They could be ideas, lessons, you name it. I've got reading and writing, K through 12, art, K through 12, social studies, technology, science, music, math. Okay? You can take as many or as little as you want, but those are resources that could probably set you up a little bit as you start making lessons and stuff for your practice. Cool? You better do your gas card raffle. People want free money.
Hello guys. So because of our limited time, I just picked the third person of everyone that came in. So that is Yossi. Before I start, I'm so sorry if I butchered your name. It probably will happen. Yossi, Whitney Walling, Hunter Stady, Taylor Curry, Triton, Ivy, and Brock.
You can come see me over here.
I know, he's over here like, yes.
Can we also thank her? This is amazing. All right, come get your papers and maybe just clean up a little bit. Scissors up there in that can.
Here, I
If you have questions, she said she can stay, so.
Yes, I will stay and answer questions. I didn't put my business card over there, so if you're like, hey, I need something cool for this, I'll look you up. I can help. But yes, if you're looking for a lesson ever, you don't know, I got you. Just email me. Yes.
Hunter, I heard your name. Nice job. Very cool. Yes.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. It's fun. See you guys. Thank you for coming.
I really have to.
Yeah, but we.
See ya. Thank you. Thank you guys. Thanks for coming. I mean, you have to kind of, but you still did, huh?
I still show it.
Seriously. What? I cannot stay here.
I'll be right back.
Of course. Oh, take more food. If you're still here, take more food.
I gave this to my social.
Yeah, take more food, please.